Okay, we are live. Hello, darlings. What oopsie I just did. Welcome, everybody. It's just going to take me a moment to get everybody on board. Actually, I'm not even sure how to do that. So give me a moment and give me a moment and see what we can do here. All right. All right. Can you also let me know the sound is good? Hello, everybody. This is the pre-show to the show, so to speak. Oh goodness, sound check. Okay, it's good. Thank you, darling. Thank you so much for confirming. Hello, dear Starshine. Oh yeah, so good to see you. All right, I have to tell you, we have such amazing, amazing human beings in this realm. Really amazing human beings, and I think it's important for us to just revisit that every single day. It'll help us with some of the chaos and clarity that's going on in our collective field. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm getting the buzz. I'm getting the buzz going, saying it's all good. Sounds good. Camera's good. All right, wonderful. Welcome, 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 everybody, to this live stream. Today, we are talking about the first key to navigating the new paradigm. So if you guys haven't seen the past broadcast and a blog post that was posted on our website several weeks ago, it may have been a couple months by now, this is going deeper into that. So if you want the background and you want to check in with the original dispensation in the blog, it's called The 4 Keys to Navigating the New Paradigm. And that's at lightbodyacademy.com. And you go to the blog and then you just scroll through. We have lots and lots of things in our blog. All 4 of us post things according to our niche. All 4 of us facilitators at Light Body Academy post things in that blog according to our niche. And the 4 keys is also a talk that I did, and it's also a live stream broadcast that is, I believe, still on our YouTube channel. And if it's not in our YouTube channel, you can sign up for our community library. It's like $5 a month or something like this, and you can get all of our archived recordings. So I do want to go for a moment into that. But before I do, for those of you who are new, that are here live or watching the recording, my name is Christina, and I am a consciousness acceleration expert. And, I picked that term for a very specific reason. We are going into a new paradigm. There are new rules of reality unfolding. And I want to be clear about with what I call myself, be clear about what it is I'm here to do as doing my part in the awakening. And in the overall mission for the Light Body Academy is to empower an awakening world. So the paradigm is shifting to such a degree that what we see and what we're experiencing is an awakening to a global shamanic paradigm. That means the rules of reality that we have been governed by are completely going out the window, and we are stepping into who we are as multidimensional beings en masse. Okay, so these abilities aren't just for the few, it's the abilities waking up for all humans. And this is why I feel it's so important to discuss the 4 keys to navigating these times, because as the blinders come off, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of revealed manipulation, trauma responses. It's just this hodgepodge of craziness. And where is the I in that storm of craziness? So as we wake up to who we really are, outside looking in and being a part of a community that has been ahead of the awakening curve for, well, decades now. We're here to, as way showers, to help show the way, how to navigate these times and what kinds of ways to approach the changing of the rules of reality. Okay. So with all that said, I am a consciousness acceleration expert. As the veils lift for you, your consciousness is going to accelerate exponentially. That means your awareness of things in these unseen realms, in the multidimensional layer of who you are, rapidly expands, and the eyes are now open and engaged on those levels. So this happens in many ways. In my way, I digest the energies and I put words to it to help one put their finger on things that they know intuitively, their inner knowing they are in touch with, but they've never heard it spoken or acknowledged out loud before. And once you do, that there's no going back. You realize that you've known this the whole time, and now that you've heard it spoken out loud, you can now wrap your head around it, so to speak, and start making choices in a different way. So with all that said, going back to why we post things in our private community library versus keeping them on YouTube and Rumble. So we go to both places. We ended up having to have that Rumble channel because there were videos being flagged and tagged with the YouTube algorithm going back years. They actually did it retrospectively, and what YouTube does is that they penalize you if you have too many tagged or removed videos. And we were, during the, the COVID days and all that, right? It was obvious. Yes, there was definitely censorship going on and things being taken down. But when we see the algorithm, what it's removing retrospectively, what it's removing was content that opens people's eyes to what's really going on, and why you want to unplug from the public narrative, why you want to unplug from the media narratives and the social media narratives. Okay, so so somewhere in the algorithm, they are flagging and tagging people who empower others with the content that they share. So rather than playing that game too much, we try to circumvent it by opening up a channel in Rumble. And if you guys haven't done so already, I encourage you guys to go to that alternative channel. It is less censored and less monitored, though it is still monitored because the creators of Rumble are sponsored by Teal, the Palantir guy, right? So all of it is controlled opposition, is what we realize. Even the alternatives are still, that's controlled opposition. So we decided to post our videos, especially the empowering ones that go beyond the accepted narrative, or certain kinds of content that really awakens people, and put it in our own private library. And that way we won't be flagged and tagged by the algorithms and the control systems. And also you won't be tracked watching those videos. So it's a privacy thing on both sides. So that's why we have that community library. It's very inexpensive, and it supports the administrative cost, that $5, which is, a nominal fee considering what some of these paywalls charge. Okay, so with the laundry of that said, welcome everybody. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. Oh boy, and this year is about to kick off. I'm so excited. I can feel the momentum building. It's like this charge building under the surface, just ready to blast forward. And you guys might be wondering what I'm talking about. The new year already happened. Yes, the Gregorian calendar new year, yes, already happened. But as far as cycles go, celestial cycles, collective cycles, and the cycles of the natural world, that is an artificial construct, and it has no momentum. The only momentum that particular new year has is the fact is collective agreement. The world agrees to go by the Gregorian calendar, therefore that is the mark of the new year. But if you're going off of the cycles of the natural world, well, even that is subject to be questioned. But if you're going through the cycles, we'll just say the cycles of the celestial realms, the new year, if you're going by the lunar cycles, the new year doesn't really start until tomorrow. And this is with a new moon eclipse. New moon eclipses are significant, especially this one, are significant for the turning of the tides. The other thing that's happening is that other planetary cycles are aligning to this lunar new year beginning. So there's a lot of, it packs a lot of punch, power to the punch, so to speak. So what's about to happen tomorrow, and I want to do my best to just outline a few things for you guys so you can start, launch in a direction that truly feeds your soul. That's a nourishing interaction. There's a lot of stressors out there in this world. We're being threatened with war. We're being threatened with AI takeover. We're being threatened with taxes. For those of you who own land, you're aware that there's a massive assault going on the middle class right now, as far as taxing people. I was just on, this is of interest to me because I'm looking at properties, I'm looking at land, stuff like this. And when I go into the tax record, the pieces of land and properties that maybe had $300 annually have tripled in the past year and a half, 2 years. And even though nothing has happened to the property, nothing has changed. And that's, this is happening for farmers. This is happening in a lot of levels. So I'm just saying that because this is the human connecting to the lands. This is a human declaring to the system, this is my piece of land that I am going to caretake. I am personally responsible for, which is a really important act for a human to do in this realm. Is to just stepping up into their custodialship. So anyway, that's why I mentioned that. But today, what I really wanted to talk about is that first key of the 4 keys of navigating the new paradigm. As I said a moment ago, this new paradigm is looking like a shamanic paradigm unfolding for humanity. That means people who have normally accepted the 3D world, that think that this is strictly 3D, the Newtonian science idea of reality, logic and reason, that see the world like this, even they are having the veils, or shall I say rug, ripped out from underneath them. So this is something that is affecting us all. And I wanted to just empower you guys with some very important pieces, because the kinds of questions the logical mind asks shows us just how out of skew we are with our abilities to engage and occupy with our awareness the unseen worlds. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I have a list of questions that were sent in, and then I also have what I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about some things first, and then we're going to go into some of the questions. And it's likely that I'll end up answering some of these questions in the dialogue as I go ahead and move forward with the content. Yes. Okay. So the first key, engaging in an unseen world. We need to first look at what is the unseen world. What does that mean? Does that just mean seeing things that are invisible? Does that mean ghosts? Does that mean dead people? Does that mean what does the unseen world exactly mean? And this is a good place to start, because we have the wisdom keepers of this reality have been sharing this with us many times over. We've been skewed and it hasn't really clicked on how we naturally occupy and engage in these unseen realities. Now, self-help gurus have got us going back in the 50s with the idea of affirmations, the idea of mindset, the idea of the power of prayer, the idea that spirits exist, right? We have a soul. There's been research of tracking when people die. There, I guess it's 21. Is it 21 kilos? No, it's 21 ounces. That when a person dies, their body weight changes by 21 ounces, and this led to the research to prove through scientific method that there is something occupying the body when it's animated and alive. Okay, and that it can be measured. There's also this. There's also the whole spiritualist movement, right? So it has been coming out, but it's not, and it's just these little pieces. It's not been the larger cohesive puzzle. Okay, now I benefited by prayer and ceremony 1,000 times over in my life, especially when I used it to call forward the right teachers, especially when I used it to call forward that which is truly in alignment with my spirit and why I'm here. When I would use ceremony and prayer, focused dedication like that, it happened instantly. Okay. The realization happened, and then the three-dimensional it dropping in my lap happened. Okay, and this has gone on over and over and over again, and people might wonder, well, I see it happen, but it's not consistent. And they wonder why. It's because we don't understand the nature of the unseen reality. We are taught to fear it. We are taught that there's dark things in the unseen, there's evil things in the unseen. God doesn't want us to know what is in the unseen. We're taught all these things. And whether you were taught specifically in your life, this particular life path, it doesn't matter, because we inherited the belief systems from the previous generations. So if you had three generations of, let's say, Catholics, or three generations of Buddhists, or three generations of Pentecostal, their belief systems and the things that motivated them is enlodged in your subconscious via your biosuit and the dancing of the DNA. So the dancing of the DNA is equal to the freedom of your consciousness. So if the DNA dance is hindered, your consciousness is hindered. That is why the ancestral component is so important. So what is this unseen realm? The unseen is, well, pretty much things we don't see, right? But what I want to call this is the 4D field. And people will say, well, the 4D field, that's only one. There's a whole bunch more beyond that. But what I've been experiencing over these decades, and what my teachers have been facilitating for me, both with body and not, is that the 4D field is the gateway for all these other dimensions to engage with us in a biosuit. When we don't have a biosuit, the 4D field is still impacting our perceptions until we step beyond it, as in leave the reincarnational cycles of this reality. So even when you're talking to past loved ones, they're still within that 4D field. So our logo, our light body logo that has the triangle and then the arc with the rays coming in, that is outlining, that is representing us anchoring higher dimensions, pulling it through the 4D field and anchoring it into our here and now. Okay, so this is a very well vetted out topic that I'm talking about. So the image, let's see if I can bring up the image. Do I have a place where I can bring up the image easily? Do I have a place where I can bring up the image easily? Oh shoot, I do not. How about I draw it? I draw it because I feel like it's necessary for you guys to have the visual, so you can integrate what we're talking about while I talk here. And this is on the fly, so please forgive me that it's not it's not perfect. Okay. Now our logo is these three. It's with 3 lines, but the original teachings that came from the Palladian teachers, there is, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are more lines than that. each line representing a higher dimensional level of consciousness. Now, back in the day when I was being taught multidimensionality by a Cherokee record keeper and Mayan elder, it was specific to that we woke up to 9 dimensions, and that is our existence from the core frequency of the heart and mind of Pachamama, Mother Earth, all the way to the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And the dimensions that we have, the veils have lifted, we have access to, go far beyond that now. It goes far beyond the 11, even the 14. So you can keep adding lines to this particular structure because regardless of how many dimensional, let's say, realities we open up to, they all have to reach our psyche, our being, through the 4D field. The beautiful thing about the 4D field, there's hindrances and there's upsides and downsides, let's say like that. The beautiful thing about the 4D field is if we can imagine it, if we can think it, if we can dream it, if we can touch it in some way, in art, shape, or form, whatever, then we can bring it through into this reality. There's that much freedom within the 4D field. Now, the powers that be, let's say the beings that have been imposing control systems on the consciousness of this planet, have put a lot of crap within the 4D field. And through conditioning and trauma drama and war and all this other stuff, all sorts of falsehoods, false, let's say lies, have been anchored within the 4D field, and that blinds us and cuts it. And those lies were meant to cut us off from the benevolent access points within this 4D field. Okay. So, for example, the story, the creation story that you anchor yourself to, the creation story you have of not just you coming into this world, but humanity coming into this world. Now, some people may think, oh, well, that's just a story. And it is a story that can be told over and over again. It has great power, though, because when that story is conveying a interdimensional truth, then energetically it connects us with the benevolence of our origins, versus an origin story that tells us that, let's say, that we're sinners, right? That origin story, that is an origin story based on a distortion, but repeated over and over again. And then you add in the acts of ceremony and prayer and all these, other kinds of dimensions to engage a human in that story, including a benevolent being dying for the truth of that story, hence your sins. Now that distortion has so much energy within it, it's very difficult to see through the chaos. Okay. So that's an example of how story can shut us down or open us up. This is how the 4D field works. When there's strong emotion, when there's strong accusation, when there's strong story that has so much momentum with it, the truth of it, or not truth, becomes extremely obscured, and we become confused, and it's very difficult to navigate the unseen at that point because of all the chaos and confusion. This is why our media is so toxic right now, is because our media is not about telling us the truth. No media is about telling us the truth. Not the alternative media, not the mainstream media. Absolutely none of the media is about telling us the truth. It's about getting clicks. It's about getting your attention. It's about holding your attention and awareness. And then on another level, it's about manipulating you in such a way where you become so predictable, they know what you're going to do with any kind of stimuli they give you. That is the toxic use of the 4D field. The use of the 4D field that's meant to liberate you are the ones that tell us stories that connect us with deeper truths beyond what we imagined. The key there is beyond what we've previously imagined. Okay. Like I said, if you can imagine it, you can bring it through. So if you can imagine a past beloved, a beloved that has crossed on into the other realm and communicate with you, you can bring that through. If you can imagine a way to connect with the life force of a nature spirit, okay, and have an engagement, then it's possible for you to figure out how to bring that through to the conscious awareness. So that 4D field is the key piece to navigating. So that 4D field means it's key to strengthen and clarify the lens that we have that perceives that field, which is our solar plexus energy. Our solar plexus energy is what allows us to engage within this field. And you'll know when something feels expansive versus shutting down. When you have frustration, anger, reaction, trauma response, despair, depression, when any of that's going on because of engagement of some story in this 4D field, that's your cue that there's manipulation going on. That's your cue that whatever narrative you were just exposed to, it is not the truth. Now, that's not to say that the truth is not scathing. No. But the truth, what it does is that frees something up inside. Now, the reason why a truth would be scathing is because we've really invested ourselves in a lie. And there's a lot to be said about that, but I won't go too far down that road. I want to stay on, I want to give you guys a list of the kinds of things in this unseen realm that we're meant to be able to engage with. Okay. So far I mentioned a couple of them. One is past beloveds, beings that have passed, expired out of the physical body, whether they experienced physical death or they samadhied, okay, which is an idea of transcending death, but just choosing to leave the body and ascend into the next plane. We also have what people might call imprints. This is when you have a traumatic event or an event where people died, or an imprint of something that someone did over and over and over again, and then they died. That energetic imprint will stay in the house. The energetic imprint will stay on the lands. The energetic imprint will stay in whatever the environment is and repeat play over and over and over again. Now, this is a little bit different than an actual spirit. It's an imprint of energy, but very often we might experience them in a very similar way. And I just know this because I lived in a house on the east side of Cleveland. It was a very old house, and I experienced the imprints and the spirits there. So do my kids, actually. Got to the point where there was this particular portrait that nobody wanted to walk by because the eyes would watch you, you know. And then there was, of course, the spirits that that portrait was one of the picture of one of the spirits that occupied the house and didn't want to move on. So there's that kind of unseen realm. There's also the unseen realm of ancestors. Now, I'm not talking about ones that are dwelling in the, the very close, in the way that maybe a ghost or a ghost imprint, what we call spirit's imprint, would be. This is ancestors that we can reach back before time was time and touch. This is an ancestral inheritance that is a map of the DNA journey of our lineage. Okay. And this is a little bit different. And then the reason why it's a little bit different is because some of these ancestors are in the reincarnational cycles of this reality, but others are beyond the reincarnational cycle of this reality. And those ones you really want to connect with, because they are literally the ones that are going to call you home when it's time for you to expire out of this biosuit. Okay. Those ancestors that exist beyond the realm of the reincarnational cycles of this realm. Okay, so there's that kind of very human kind of unseen realm. And then you have the unseen realms, which we would call nature spirits. So nature spirits are the tree spirits, the plant spirits, the bear spirits, the fae beings. These are elemental beings that we can engage with and have lots of lore. So these elemental beings are like maybe what we would call fairies, gnomes, pixies, dwarves, trolls. Yeah, they all exist in the unseen realm. Sasquatch, unicorns. Um, well, then after that, you start getting into some beings that are part of the natural world, but we experience them or call them ETs. Okay, and those are beings that live in the earth, the inner earth beings. We have beings such as Sasquatch and Yeti that humans have interacted with, and there's lots of lore about that occupy inner realms of the earth. That some might call them ETs because some people associate the man-made UFO UAPs and Sasquatch. There's a little shenanigans going on. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but there's shenanigans going on with that. Anyway, then you have beings that look like grays, right? Then that's a whole spectrum of beings. Then you have all these the beings that we call the reptilians, the amphibians, the insectoids. We have all this, which we would consider or are told or are taught that those are ETs, but really they're interdimensional beings, and many of them are actually part of our ancestry. But that idea is so far away from what we're taught and what the disclosure movement has conveyed. It's preposterous to think such a thing until you wake up to who you are as a multidimensional human. And then once you feel who you are beyond the biosuit and beyond the story of what you're told of who you are, now there's something else going on. It makes complete sense that we have ancestors in our soul's journey that go back, to that level of ancestry. It makes total sense to have familial soul family connections that go back to the original universe. It makes complete sense for us to perceive our Palladian family as brothers and sisters, or our Syrian family as brothers and sisters, or our, I'm going to say, Draco family as brothers and sisters. Not a lot of people will agree with that last statement, but they are family. Not all our family are pleasant. I'm sure y'all have your crazy drunk uncle or aunt when you go to family, right? You go to family events, or maybe they're all crazy, knowing the kind of, family unit we get born to. I joke, I jest about this, but for real, all these are in the unseen realm. The unseen realm is also right, like vibrationally right next to us. And that is things like this cushion right here. This cushion right here, you think is an inanimate object. It's dead, but it's not. It actually is made up of material that has molecules. So once in this molecular, as science tells us, the molecular makeup has a very unique energy signature. For example, carbon has a very different, what do they call that? Molecular number than, it's a weight. It's a weight and vibration. Oh shoot, now I can't remember. But carbon has very different signature on the molecular level than silicon, right? Than gas, than other kinds of solids, heavy metals, all this stuff. That has an energy too. So what that means is that you can tune yourself into the telluric realm deeply enough, you can actually see the energy signature of these pillows. And the interesting thing is that though these pillows look exactly the same, their energy signature will be different. Okay. Now that's a matter of tuning in to the 2D realm, not the psychic eye. So the lens that we have that perceives the 2D realm is deep in our body. It's way lower in our field. It's not the psychic eye. So I'm turning the whole thing. I'm turning this whole unseen realm perception on its head. A lot of people think only psychic people experience things in the unseen realm. It's no, no, no. It's all people. We just don't know that's what's happening. But also, the psychic eye is very, very particular in its bandwidth that lens perceives. Just like the solar plexus is very specific to that bandwidth that it perceives. Okay, so we have lenses of perception throughout our entire body. It's not just the third eye. And actually, I would discourage people from spending a lot of time activating their third eye. And you might wonder why. And it's because our 4D field, the solar plexus air lens, is so toxic and so consumed in chaos, is that whatever we perceive through the psychic eye is heavily susceptible to manipulation, illusion, and delusion. We are not anchored in our divinity, in our divine nature. Therefore, whatever we open ourselves up to, it's like the Wild West. It's total chaos. Okay, so there is a process to really open yourself up in a way that's empowering, that is centering, and that is bringing you even more focused in the here and now, hence grounding. Okay, there is a way to do that. And the way we have been taught, or I should say, the way that has been allowed to proliferate. The way it's been allowed to be conveyed to us is specifically distorted to make sure we don't wake up in an empowered way to all these unseen levels of our reality. Okay, so let's see if there's any other pieces here. Okay, so there's also, in the unseen realm, there's also sound, right? You don't see sound, but you feel sound. There's mental frequencies. You don't see them, but you definitely have them via your thoughts. There's emotional frequencies. You definitely don't see those, but you do have them. And you can actually let someone see you have them, which is extremely profound, right? There are stuff within what we call in the ether. Okay. So the unseen realm are things that perhaps you have more context for than you realize. Okay, so I am definitely going to be going over the hour. So you guys, if you can hang out that whole time, that would be wonderful. But if not, I understand. I respect your time. I know that we all have a lot going on in our world, and we're preparing for this launching forward into this time. But before I go any further, I want to encourage you guys to check out one of the events that we have coming up this weekend on the 21st. So Laurel Lehman, who is in charge of our elemental realm portal, she specializes in engaging in elemental beings of nature. And this is Fae and Sasquatch and gnomes and, all these different kinds of beings. And there's many, many different kinds of beings. She is actually going to be walking people through how to activate yourself and hold energy inside of yourself in such a way where you can engage with these energies in a very empowered, grounded way. And so one of the things that we appreciate about the unseen realm when we engage is that there's feedback loops. As we reach out and make contact in the unseen realm, there's a feedback loop. The beings in the unseen realm that we're reaching out to reach back. And in this case, and what she's doing is with the camera, with photography. So you can tune yourself in such a way to engage in the unseen world of nature, to the point where beings will allow you / invite you into capturing their image on film. well, film, but digitally, right? So that is it's called The Real World of Fairies, Photographing the Unseen Realms. And that is happening this weekend on the 21st at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So 10 a.m. Mountain Time is, let's see, noon Eastern Time. And you can register for that by going to our Light Body Academy website, click on events, or no, go to the Elemental Realm portal, which is, you go on that webpage and scroll down, and then there's a link there to go to the Elemental Realm portal. And as soon as you go there and scroll, you'll see the registration information for that. She's extremely gifted and has been designated, I'm going to say, by different beings of the unseen realm to be an ambassador, because it's really important at this time that humans wake up to who we are in a way that is centered in the truth, which is love, nurturing, supportiveness. Okay. So the reality that we have been given by what people might call the patriarchy or whatever, that's all, fear, scarcity, fear, stuff like this. And when you wake up to the deeper indigenous teachings of this realm, they're still very masculine because a lot of the feminine stuff died out, but there's a resurgence of the original teachings that tell us, that show us that we are born into this reality being gifted everything we need to fulfill our purpose. Okay. The Pachamama, Mother Earth, loves us, holds us, gives us freely everything we need to proliferate and thrive. Okay. Now that idea is very opposite of what our religions tell us. Many of the religions tell us of this reality. Goes to show our distortion. Okay, so I am going to keep going, but I'm going to reframe some of these. I'm going to go through the questions and reframe and go into this deeper, because this is such a vast topic. I need to keep on track. So far I've went over what is in the kinds of things that are in the unseen realm. And I'm going to say the unseen realm is so vast that that list will continue to grow. I only listed a few things, a couple categories, but that list is going to continue to grow. But I've been able to at least broaden the scope a little bit. Okay, so interesting. So the first question we have here is, how do I know what I'm sensing is real and not my imagination? Now, it goes on to, they go on to say, what's the difference between fear and, let's see, this is fear, fantasy, and genuine perception? Now, sit with that question for a moment for yourself. All right. And it's likely that many of you have asked this question of yourself multiple times. Okay. And you should always be questioning yourself. I'm not saying that because you question yourself, that's anything. What I mean is that asking, the way this question is framed up is showing us our blind spot. It's glaringly obvious that this question is based on a deep rooted blind spot. And what tells me that is this, I know, right? How can I say that? What tells me that is this idea of genuine perception. Okay. This question is kind of like one of those, how do you know it's real? Right? See, the big question is, what is real? Okay. It's what you can logically deduce. No. It's what you can knock on. No. Example, I'm knocking here, right? You hear, I knock, there's a sound. Okay, it's real, it exists. Okay, it exists on some levels, but on the unseen levels of what this is, this whole thing, the atoms and molecules that make up this material, there's more space than there is solidity, but yet I can't experience that space right now. I only can knock and engage with the solidity. What is making it happen that way? And if I go deeper into what science tells us about this thing in front of me, this computer, is that it's actually not even space. It's actually waves moving. It's photons moving. So it's actually light particles. But yet I don't see, when I look at it and I engage with it, there's no light particles here. I just have this solid thing that I have to clean and dust. And you know what I mean? Why is it like that? But yet everybody would agree that that's real. Okay. Scientists who are into quantum theory will agree that, yeah, it's particles. So what is real? Some people might think it's consensus. With that example I just gave, it's the collective consensus that tells us it's real. Okay, well, what if the collective is insane? They're taught total bass-ackward lies about reality. Does that make their beliefs real? When you get enough people in the room that tell you that the sky is green and not blue, does that make it green? Okay. So the very first thing we need to grapple with internally is deepen the acceptance of the reality that we don't see things through genuine perception. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Okay. And this is exponentially true when we're going into engaging with the unseen realms. Whatever your belief system is, consciously or subconsciously, that is going to skew your lens of how you perceive the unseen realms. If you believe that true evil exists within nature and you have an engagement with a being in the unseen realms, you are going to likely point at that and call it evil, when really it's a being that's in a totally different reality than you are, doing things for totally different reasons that you can't understand. Okay. For example, Okay, so strange. All right, so we have a bunch of beings actually want me to really talk about this. This is really important. So the hijacking of the Celtic lands. So the original integral teachings of the Christ was brought to the Celtic lands by Joseph of Aramea. And this was the original anchoring of Christianity in the European landscape. Okay, this far predates the pre-Vatican or the popal shoot, now I can't remember the name of the meeting, whatever that popal meeting was, where the Caesar decided that Christianity was going to be the official religion, and they decided the rules of Christianity. It was before what became the Vatican. The papacy, the something of Nicaea. Okay, anyway, but long before that meeting happened and the organizing structures of what we consider Christianity these days were created, hundreds of years before that, Christianity was a living, breathing field in harmony with both the masculine and feminine expressions within our subconscious, conscious, and nature in the Celtic lands. And there's also stories that tell the similar thing happened in regions of Africa as well. Okay, so it wasn't the only one, but I can speak to the European part because this is actually my mom's people from this area. So there are myths and legends and lore that that have that anchoring. And then comes the Romans that conquer that area, and you are practicing the wrong version of Christianity. That's not the real version of Christianity. It's the Roman version of Christianity you should be practicing. And this is where the idea of the conquest came in. This is like the burning of the wise women and the medicine people and all this stuff. This originated in that area. So the deep wounding within the feminine was anchored in that area. And then of course the taking over the sacred places, the churches, the different system was overlaid on the organic natural system. and there was this power play. So what happened is that if you engaged in the unseen realm, which previously was wide open to you, we co-created with, we created beauty with, has now become something that facilitated trauma and pain. If you got caught speaking or having an engagement with a being of nature, an unseen being of nature, you were accused of being a witch. You were accused of being one cursed with the eye, right? It turned into something that was weaponized and used against the person. And so now anytime that engagement would happen spontaneously or not, it was a feared thing. It was something that was awful and evil. And then, of course, the Fae, the beings that were friends with humans way, before the previous generations, are now made evil in the new generations. And then not only that, their habitats were getting destroyed, their waters being poisoned, the trees being cut down, right? The devastation of the ecosystem was commencing. Those Fae beings definitely had some feelings about that, and there was backlash. So that further fed this idea that the nature spirits were dangerous, fairies were dangerous and tricky beings, and you need to stay away because you will get hurt. So that's an example of how, right, of how this gets turned around via the belief systems, right? We are anchored in through trauma, drama, and all this stuff. What was once benevolent is now considered evil. It's the same nature spirits that have been throughout, the previous centuries, but the relationships changed. So now, as we perceive them as dangerous, when before our relationship, humans' relationship, was benevolent. You see what I mean? So that's just one example. There's many, many examples. The Inquisition literally went through the entire world, not as strongly in Asia, but all of the Americas, the European, definitely sections of Africa, the Arab world, all of this experienced some kind of invasion via the attitudes and belief systems of the Inquisition. So that changed our relationship and perceptions of the unseen realm. Okay. So, but it is important to know the difference. But before I get to that, I have to first go into imagination versus real. Because projection and fantasy is a really significant distortion when we're perceiving the unseen realms. Projection and fantasy is when we really want something to be so. And now we're creating an environment of, let's say, confirmation bias, right? Confirmation bias is when you have a particular attitude or perception of something, and an event unfolds before you, and to you, because of your attitude and belief, you take it as a validation proving you right, when actually it may not be proving you right at all, but you can't see that because of your lens is distorted. Okay. You can have two different people perceive the same event and walk away with completely different biases confirmed by that event. Okay. This is how fluid the engagement is with the unseen reality. This is why we have to unlearn the things that we've learned over all these years, so we can engage in the unseen realm in a empowered, centered, integral way. This is why this is the first key humans have to grapple with moving into the new paradigm. Okay. Imagination. So imagination is a gift, and it is an essential part of engaging the unseen realm. Imagination. Not confirmation bias, not attachment, not projection, but your ability to perceive possibilities beyond what has already existed before in your experience. Imagination is a key to allowing your perceptions to expand beyond current accepted belief systems about reality, current accepted rules of reality. Your imagination is the key out of that box. So definitely encourage imagination. And this whole thing about real. Now, I've already went into that about, okay, what is real? What we call reality is completely subjective, especially when you're going into this unseen aspect. So the next question is, how do I stay grounded while opening to something so vast? And I love this question. I absolutely love this question, because what we call grounded is even up to be questioned right now. Grounded, to me, I would call that centered, means present, fully present in your body, not outside your body, not behind your body, not hiding behind something, right? But in your body, perceiving with your solar plexus clear, heart open, receptive, and behind your eyes. Okay? When we are in that deep of awareness, we feel what one might refer to as grounded. So there's this idea that the biosuit, the human body, is confining. And that is really just because the DNA dance is hindered because of the distortions within our 4D field and our soul's journey, right? These biosuits have the capacity to accommodate such vastness that we are completely free within our biosuit. The more, and what I've learned over the years is that the more embodied we are, the freer and liberated we become in our here and now reality. Okay. So in how do you stay present while this vastness is upon us? And I would touch on the point of it all depends on how open and free you are with your heart space. With your heart space. The more open and free your consciousness is within your heart space, the more expanded and aware of what is in the vastness you can become. And you'll stay in the relationship of the truth, because the heart cuts through the distortions and lies. The distortions and lies are all meant to propagate fear, propagate aggression, okay? Things like this. So when your heart is open and fluid and you are free in your heart space, you can proceed into the unknown and the vastness with integrity. And when your heart is strong, it serves as I'm going to say, a protective field. Certain frequencies cannot touch you when your freedom is so deep within your heart space. Okay. This beautiful question. I love that. Okay. Now, okay, this one I think I already covered, but I'm just going to say it out loud so you guys have it. And if there are questions that come up, I will check the comments at the end, and we'll go through those too. So if there's other things that are questions in your mind, I'm more than happy to check them out. Okay, so what this next question is, it says, what hold on. Okay, sorry. You know what? You know what I should be doing? I'm so used to not having it with me. Oh, here we go. Ta-da! This makes life easier. Okay. How do I protect my energy without closing my heart? How do I hold boundaries without cutting off connection? This is an excellent, excellent question. So a lot of it has to do with our belief systems. A lot of it has to do with our perceptions of boundaries. Now, this is interesting because I was in conversation with one of my daughters about this. What most Westerners, and this is due to probably modern psychology, I can imagine. I mean, I imagine I'm not a psychologist, so I really can't speak on an expert level on this, but on that part. But I can on this part, in the sense of what most people are calling boundaries is actually weaponized separation, weaponized intolerance. So the concept of boundaries means I'm over here and you're over there. And when you're dealing with the unseen reality, how you think and how you feel is huge to how you perceive these energies. So I would invite you to consider maybe not using the concept of boundaries or shielding. Instead, think of it as in the power of presence and maintaining the integrity of a field. So if you look at boundaries more of you being responsible to maintain the integrity of your field, then this whole question is not an issue at all. It's when you push people out, push people away, it's usually in the form of making them wrong, right? Then now you are creating separation, and you are not able or wanting to be present with something, right? So it's a very fine line. I mean, we're splitting a hair here, the difference between maintaining integrity and holding a boundary. Okay. Holding a boundary is pushing away or fencing off. Maintaining the integrity is there's nothing A, B, or C can do to change this energy that I'm holding. And it's because it's not held by your ego driver. It is held by the power of your presence, a deeper sense of who you are. That is what maintains the integrity of your energy field. Okay. Yes, that was a great question. Thank you guys for that. All right. Next one. How do I tell the difference between intuition and a trauma response? Ooh, I'm curious. How many of you guys have asked that of yourself? How many times, or maybe this is your first time hearing this question. How do I tell the difference between intuition and a trauma response? Excellent question. Excellent question. So earlier on in the talk, I talked about lenses. We have lenses of perception all over our body. We can perceive through any cell of our body. We can perceive through different energy centers of our body, and so on. It goes on. It's quite vast. So, trauma response. What is a trauma response? A trauma response, in my understanding, as years of being a body worker, working with trauma release, but then also understanding energetics of what happens with trauma release. It is something, the trauma, the energy pattern gets embedded in our nervous system and in our tissues. The memory of our tissues is the fascia. If you guys don't know what fascia is, it's these microtubules of water, which now we know water holds memory, that is wrapped around every cell, every tissue, every fiber of our being is encapsulated in this fascia. Our organs, our nerve routes, everything is covered, encapsulated in fascia. And it's the fascia that holds memory. So trauma response is the memory of a past incursion. You can have mental, emotional, spiritual abuse that results in trauma. You can have physical stuff that results in trauma. PTSD is considered a trauma response. Now, there was research done on this, and what they recognized was some people would walk away from a traumatic experience and be fine, and other people would not. They would show signs and symptoms of PTSD. And they were looking at what was the difference. And the difference was that the people who had a secure, nurturing, loving upbringing in their family home, they endured the traumatic event just fine. They were able to move on from it. The ones that had mental, emotional, spiritual, physical abuse in the home, they would carry that trauma for years to come. It tells us a lot about today's society. So it is possible to unwind this trauma. And I would say that when you are engaging in the unseen realm and in your intuitive perceptions, this is not as much of an issue as people would think. And here's why. In order for us to tune in a centered way, our nervous system is at default at ease. So our nervous system first has to be at ease. Our body is at ease. That means our parasympathetic response, our rest and digest response is active, not the stress response. The stress response is stimulated by fear, by anger, by memories, images can trigger it. Okay, there's all sorts of things. Smells can trigger it. So when you are engaging in the unseen realm in a centered way, in a uplifted way, as in your heart lens is accessible, your body's nervous system is at ease, which means the trauma response isn't up. Okay? So when you are at ease, centered, grounded, and you're walking into nature, you are poised to perceive things that much closer to as they actually are, but you're poised to be at that frequency that overlaps with the beings of the unseen realm. The beings of the unseen realm, the frequencies that they occupy with their consciousness is extremely benevolent and uplifting and fun. Okay. This is why feminine medicine is so powerful, because one of the key components to feminine energy medicine, the feminine path to spiritually awakening, is fun. That's a major component. So when you are in that uplifted state, your nervous system is at ease, you simply and easily overlap with the frequencies of the unseen realm. And now you can start engaging with these benevolent nature spirits. If you are engaging with beings that are benevolent, they understand your human condition. And many of them, especially right now, are ambassadors to help you wake up to the bigger picture of who we are as multidimensional beings. And this has been illustrated over and over again. Acted out over and over again by the beings that we call Sasquatch, Yowie. And this is because they understand that false belief systems have been anchored in our subconscious via trauma and abuse. So they will take us right up to the edge of that capacity over and over again. If they've taken us under their wing, so to speak, they'll take us right up to that edge over and over again, so we can have fear and our benevolence at the same time. And what that does is that it as like a flame, burns off the embedded energies from the abuse, trauma, drama. Okay, and I'm talking about spiritual abuse as well, or I should say spiritual abuse especially. Okay, hopefully I answered that question. All right, darlings, let's keep going. If there's a question that arises from this, definitely put them in the chats. I'll get to it at the end. Okay. All right, is there anything else to say about the difference between intuition and trauma response? Okay, so there are beings that do engage with humans while they're in trauma response. Not all of them are benevolent in the sense of they have your best interest at heart. Some of them may have your best interest at heart. Ultimately, on a spiritual unfoldment, everything unfolding has your best interest at heart. But our ego driver definitely does not experience it that way. So this means we also need to start adapting our beliefs about our relationship to creator, prime creator, and the universe. We are poised to perceive things in a negative way due to the conditioning that's been going on over the past several thousands of years, ever since the fall of consciousness, which I went deep into what that means. I won't do it again this time, but that's in a previous video that I did. And so we're going to say at least the past 15,000 years, 15,000 years, right? So we have a lot to unwinding to do. This awakening that we're in right now, this cycle of awakening that we are in that has been prophesized for thousands and thousands of years, is showing us that our perception have been so skewed that we've been blind to what's been right in front of us. This time has been spoken about by so many beings, both in body and not, both of this planet and in other dimensional realities. It's inevitable. It's an inevitable period of our cycle. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to save that one. I'm going to wait to that one. All right. How do I communicate in a way that is ethical and respectful? So that means no appropriation, no projections, and no bypassing. Okay, I think they mean spiritual bypassing. This is a massive, massive question. I could do a dispensation just on this question alone, but I'll keep it simple and clear and straightforward here. Number one, I guess we need to understand what appropriation is about. I imagine someone is saying, if you as a European going into a deep indigenous, non-European tradition and honoring unseen beings in that way, that might be considered appropriation. And with that, I want to tell a story about, I want to tell a story. Okay. So this story comes from a Celtic medicine woman named Una. I met her in person years ago. We have mutual friends, and she's a bit older than I am. She had spent many decades of her life connecting with the indigenous elders of the different lineages of this planet. Now, the deep wisdom keepers, the deep lineage holders, let's say, of the ancient medicines, you're never going to find them in the realm of technology. You're not going to find them being interviewed on a podcast. You're not going to find them even in the cities and towns that are nearby the region that they live. They stay separated for a reason. There are a few that have done some outreach work, reaching out to humanity. One of them being a gentleman being a Ngangak from Greenland. There are others that do this as well, but not many. Most of them stay secluded. And she put in the work to develop the relationships, to develop the connections with these elders And because of that, she's able to walk away with some of the amazing stories that they tell us about the different lineages of this reality. So this story came from one of those elders. I believe he's in Kenya. I could be mistaken about that, but I believe he's one of the indigenous masters of Kenya. And he said, and how the story goes is the first humanoids of this planet were the yellow people, what we would consider Asian, the Chinese Asian. Okay. They were the first ones here, and they were given the responsibility to be guardians of the elemental realm. They failed at this. And the reason why they illustrate them being the first beings is because of specifically the frequency of yellow, which is the first colors of the rising sun. The yellow sun, representing the yellow people, were given the responsibility to be caretakers of the elemental realm. And they failed at this. They mined and dug and extrapolated and commodified the resources of the elemental realm, creating much suffering. So they did not do a good job with their responsibility. The next race, when the sun is high in the sky, were the white people. And their responsibility was to connect all the other peoples, to explore cultures, to explore the differences, and bridge them through our similarities. But we did not do a good job. Instead of building bridges, we made war, we conquered, we colonized. And then the sun being lower in the sky were the red people. And the red people were tasked with the responsibility, custodians of peace. They were meant to make peace in this reality. And they too did not do a good job. They war amongst each other. They made war with other cultures and other races. They made war between brother and sister. They lost their peace. Then there's the people, the black people, the ones that arise after the sun sets. And their responsibility was to keep us safe in the dark, was to keep the peoples of this realm safe when the sun was not shining. And they also did not do a good job at this. Many of us fear the dark. They use their strength against each other. Their fierceness was used to not keep safe and protect, but to invade and make pain. And therefore, we all look out at night. We all walk with cautious at night. We all lock our doors. And what I love about this story is that every single race on this planet has a sacred purpose. So what that mythology told us about the purpose of the white races, I find fascinating, because I think this speaks to why so many do what they do. We, in general, love many cultures. We love them. We appreciate so many things about them. We love learning languages. We love learning cultures. We love disappearing into them if we can. And of course, there's the shadow side of that. I'm not discounting this at all. I'm just saying the sacred purpose part. This is what we need to understand. We all have a sacred purpose. And to demonize one over the other, to say one is wrong for doing what is actually innately part of their purpose, cuts us off from something sacred. So this is why I think we do what we do, why our natures are the way they are. And the 4D field has been used to make enemies between the races, to make one wrong and another more right. And the fact is, if you're being honest with yourself and you're looking at the state of this world, the state of every single country and nationality, we've all failed. The yellow, the white, the red, the black, the brown, we've all failed. It's all of our responsibility. So when we are waking up to these unseen realms, and all we have in our awareness is what this culture or that culture has done to make connection, that's us stepping up into responsibility. That's us stepping into custodialship. So an indigenous person might be very angry at seeing a white person do indigenous practices, or a white person doing African practices, or Asian practices, or vice versa. I've seen many Asians do indigenous practices, actually, right? So this is a piece within the narrative we need to come into right relationship with, and understand that it's not about who owns what. This is my people. This is your people. No, we are all together in our responsibility of being custodians of this reality. And that means we are all together in the responsibility of reclaiming our relationship with that of the unseen realm. So in my book, I would say, whatever works, use. So that's taking care of the ceremonial ritual part of it. But now let's go into the attitude part of it. Most humans are so deep in their lack, when they reach that benevolent place and start interacting with beings in those realms that are overlapping, there's a problem. And this was explained to us when we were at a a secret fairy circle in Ireland. What they said was, they were explaining to, like, how we were different and why they were engaging with us, was that we did not come swallowing. They said there's a big problem with humans accessing our realm coming swallowing. And what that means is needy and greedy. We want. Heal me, help me, show me. That's swallowing. Okay. This is probably the most important part of the whole podcast here. When we come swallowing, we are not on equal ground anymore with these beings. They now have to create a level of separation between us, because that energy is so impactful in their world. When we come into those overlapping realities, anchored in our centeredness, in our dignity of who we are as the divine beings in a biosuit, regardless of color or culture, we now can have an interaction that is ethical and respectful, because we are not coming hungry. We are not desperate. We are not swallowing. We are coming to that place of overlap with respect, admiration, and a desire to build relationship. So the new human, the Homo luminous, as some have put it, is in the processing of unlearning everything that they've learned, because it's all distorted lies. And that includes the logical system that we've been given, logic and reason. We unlearn all that so we can be present and we can learn via listening. Our capacity to listen and observe teaches us, gives us a feedback loop of what is well received and what's not. I'm prefacing what I'm about to say next by that, because we need to understand that above all things. So there are ways to engage with nature spirits and with the ancestral realm that is very, very easy and simple, but it's super important that we listen. So in the Sasquatch circles, there's this idea of having a gifting place. And some people just randomly go out into the woods and leave things, right? So I'm not saying anything about right, wrong, good, or bad. What I'm saying is listen, perceive, make contact, then gift. Because here's the distortion that is a sickness in humanity. We force gifting onto each other, and we force gifting onto these unseen beings as well. What do I mean by that? The example I have, so I was a nomad for almost 5 years, and that means picking up and traveling all the time, always moving. And you can imagine that it's quite an asset to be able to travel light, right? So it was a challenge to decide, to prioritize what were the things I really, really needed to make sure I have everything I needed while I'm traveling and not be bogged down by carrying too many things. And one of the things that I quickly came confronted with is that there are many people in my world that love and respect what I do and want to give me things. And it's this, the sentiment is so sweet. And really the sentiment was really what landed for me. Okay. I was deeply touched by that. And people would give me things. And what started happening is that I ended up with a lot of things. And I didn't have enough stuff, enough opportunities to gift them to other people, right? So what I started doing was asking people not to give me things. Please don't give me anything physical. Please don't, give me that really cool watch or those neat socks or those crystals, all that stuff. They just really, really, really so wanted me to have it, even though I asked not to. So my way of dealing with that is, of course, the sentiment. I would receive the sentiment, be deeply grateful, and then I would go on to gift whatever that was to somebody else that needed it or that was calling to, right? But when you're dealing with non-corporeal beings, when you're dealing with the natural world, what do they do with that? So we need to understand that gifts that really hit the mark, that really hit the sentiment of it truly being a gift, there's an expansiveness and a lightness that happens. Versus when we're gifting because we're supposed to, we're taught to, we want to feel like we've gifted something, right? That's where we're out of alignment. We're not listening. Now, this is, oh man, okay, this is hitting a few people the hard way. All right. This is a fine line. I'm splitting a hair here. I'm not saying because you gift and, whatever, it's wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's an important thing about listening before you do that. Checking in before you do that. Are you gifting to make yourself feel better? Or are you gifting because you really want this being to receive your love and admiration? your respect, your gratitude because they helped you in some way. Okay, that's what we need to see the difference. A lot of people gift, and this is just our wounding. We gift so we can feel better, so we can feel like we've done something to feel better about ourselves. That is out of alignment. When you're centered in your being and your heart is deeply open, deeply present, I should say, open is not the right word, presence is the right word. You will be ethical and respectful in that interaction. When we are a little outside or whatever in that lack or whatever those programs are, that's where things can be skewed. Now, there are beings, as I said earlier, that have been appointed. They're either self-appointed ambassadors, or they've said yes to being given the responsibility as an ambassador to humans. So they are going to teach you. They are going to engage with you. So all the ways we misalign, they are there to experience that, to help you through waking up out of it. So that is a bit of a different story. Those are beings that are there specifically to show you the ropes, so to speak, on how to engage. And for those of you guys who've gotten an ambassador like that, like a lot of the Sasquatch contactees, that's a gift. That's a real gift. Okay. All right. We're going to keep going here. And remember, oh yeah, you can get there. Okay. So yeah, go ahead, put the questions in, and I'll get them at the end. Okay. What role does my ancestry, lineage, or soul history play in what I'm perceiving? Yeah, this is huge. I kind of already covered part of this, but this is a really big deal, because our DNA dance, which is our capacity to engage with the unseen realm, we get from our ancestors. So this is why ancestral healing is, actually I call it ancestral alchemy, is one of the keys to navigating the new paradigm, because there are ancestors that there ancestors that existed before the fall, before 15,000 years ago, right? So those are, of course, very helpful. There's ancestral connections that are part of that fall, which as we unwind and heal, they get liberated from that DNA structure dance. And then, of course, it influences of how we truly be, right? So we perceive according to how we are. So the more that wounding gets cleaned up and the more gifts of our ancestors we embody, the more present we are to see things closer to closer to what they actually are. This reality is here. There's this idea that it's a school. It is a school because we have a lot to learn and unlearn. But really, this reality, the nesting dolls of how the dimensions work together, this reality is actually a recipe for us to be walking through a magical wonderland. It's just that we have injuries that happened in our cosmic history that are in the process of healing, of unwinding. Okay. So like the Orion Wars and the whole Draco drama and the insectoid dramas, all those different dramas, the AI, interdimensional AI drama, all of that are vestiges from the ripple effects of the Orion War that we're all alchemizing now as we wake up. Okay. Keep going. Here we go. All right. I think I'm getting close to what is the unseen world asking of us? Oh, I love this question. And what is my responsibility in engaging with it? Right now, in this time, today, it's about us waking up to our responsibility of being creators of this world. Our responsibility to be the custodian of this reality. We are meant to be the ones who dream this world into being. That means this reality is whatever it is we dream forward. There are indigenous stories that talk about, this is the times before the moon. This is in Cherokee records, is that the women would dream and connect with the benevolent soul that they were to give birth to. That was how the cycles began. That's how the consciousness of this reality was maintained. Whatever souls got to come into this reality, that threshold was the providence of women. That's not what it is today, but back in the day, that's how it was. So you and I, regardless of our origins, regardless of starseed origins, regardless of whatever, we are the ones, because we're in the biosuit, that are the custodians of this reality. We are the ones responsible for maintaining the integrity of this reality. Now, there's nothing in our stories that tell us that, unless you have the honor and privilege of being exposed to the indigenous creation stories, because those stories tell us that, right? Being the sacred dreamer. And that's what this is all about, unraveling all this stuff so we can have a perspective where we can step into our capacity as being the sacred dreamer. We literally dream this world into being collectively. Okay. Wow. Interesting. All right. Let's see what we got here. We have a couple things. We have, okay. If so, okay, guys, I'm going to ask that you be more descriptive in your questions, because when you go off of a tangent, off of a sentence, I don't know which sentence, where in the background, where in of what I said that your comment is on. So definitely, yeah, if we can do it like that, so I can make better sense. I'll go ahead and track what you might be meaning, but all right. Anyway, if so, are now the Rainbow Tribe, are we now responsible for the tasks of all these tribes? The yellow, the white, the red, and the black people. Yes, right. So this is an excellent question. Thank you. That's a really, really great question. We're talking about DNA dance. I believe this story was told. To open us up from a perspective that was imprisoning our perceptions in the 4D field. I believe the story was told to open us up from an imprisoned point of view that our 4D field was giving us. So that story was giving us a key to expand perceptions that are being limited in the 4D field. What we need to understand is that reality is so completely malleable. It is so malleable. When you watch masters, and they do reveal themselves to collectives of humans, when you watch masters, they completely defy reality. Makes me think of Master Zoe. Master Zoe is I think he's a Zen master. I might totally have that wrong. He's a Zen master in LA. He's got a center in LA. You can actually see him to help heal your chi. He's actually the one that, I believe he's the one that trained Robert Downey Jr. To re-inform his light body so he can transcend his addiction. I don't know if you guys remember, he had a massive addiction problem way in his younger days. So Master Zhao, when he was first making a name for himself, would do these public demonstrations. And one of them was, are you guys familiar with rice paper? Rice paper is this really thin paper. You just poke right through it with your finger. It's so fragile. He had rice paper in this little wooden frame. And while he was talking to the group of people, who he was demonstrating in front of, he would have people in the crowd come and hold the frame with this rice paper in it. And he would stand on it and not fall through. And people were like, what? How's that possible? And then people thought, oh, it's got to be a prop. And then And he's a beefy guy, not a thin guy, beefy guy, right? Stocky kind of guy, Master's out. He had a shirt that was like a 3T toddler shirt. If you ever seen those shirts, they're tiny. And he was actually able, while talking, giving his presentation, he took that toddler shirt and put it on without ripping it. He was able to change the capacity of that shirt to be on a body. And the other thing he did, and this is something he actually did on TV, on, if you guys remember the show Ripley's Believe It or Not, they took, they had a blacksmith's hearth burning or heating up iron chain link. Okay. So when you heat up metal, it goes through different phases of coloring. And he actually took the chain out of the fire that it was in. It was glowing hot. And he bit the chain link off with his teeth with no burns. He did it multiple times. This is on TV. You could probably find it on YouTube, I imagine. No burns whatsoever on his hands or his face, biting off this white hot metal chain link. Okay? The rules of reality are extremely malleable. I am addressing this question. It's just this question's framed up in a certain kind of way. It's a great question. I love it. Because each human needs a story that explains our sacredness. And this is how we're able to allow benevolent, higher dimensional energies come and exist, not just in our field, but allow our own consciousness to exist in those fields. So this story to me is intended to open us up to so we can imagine our sacredness, our sacred roles in this reality. So this point that you bring up about mixing the races, so to speak. Yes, in old school ideas, there's probably some taboo around that. Actually, I know in a lot of the sects, there is a bit of a taboo on that. No matter what, no matter your heritage, no matter your lineage, you are a sacred being of this realm and you belong here. You belong here. You are born to this reality with a sacred purpose. And you are given everything you need by the Pachamama, by the earth, to fulfill that purpose. So if you're a blended human of many races, which most of us are, we're melting pots. I mean, my skin's white, but I'm a melting pot. You're a melting pot. We're all melting pots. We have a sacred purpose. This is what we're waking up to in this new paradigm. As we occupy these other dimensional realms with our awareness and with our beingness, the rules of how reality works completely changes, including transcending the cultural narratives that tell us that there's a difference going on here. Okay? You see what I mean? Okay, hopefully I was able to. Okay. That's a great question. I think that's something we can all contemplate. What parts of this do we resonate with as maybe being part of our sacred purpose for being here? All right. All right. So next one, dear Sister Starshine says, all right, what do we have here? Where you get this from, you are not. Oh, okay. So someone's disagreeing with one of the stories I said. Yeah, that's fine. You can disagree. It's all good. That's part of what this realm is about, is All right. So this is why healing in groups and tracking in groups and exploring this in groups is essential, because we have this idea given to us, held in place in this 4D field of good, bad, right, and wrong. Okay. Actually, this is an excellent opportunity to talk about this. Good, bad, right, and wrong is only in the 4D field. As soon as you go into the 3D, 2D, 1D, there's no such thing as right and wrong. In the language of atoms, cells, and molecules, where is there right and wrong? Where is your DNA dance wrong? Where is your soul in its journey wrong? Okay, it's not. Where in the sound that you're making is there wrong? Where in the breath that you're breathing is there evil? Where is there good? Good is completely relative. So is evil. So is right and wrong. Completely relative. So I give this story. I'm assuming it's about the race story. I'm giving the story in the spirit of that which it was given, which is to open us up to another idea. Is that wrong? Is it wrong for me to open you up to another idea? Okay. Is it wrong to tell you you're a benevolent being with a divine purpose in this reality? Some people will say yes, because it's not in honor of whatever their God is. It's not in the Bible. It's not in the Quran. It's not in the sutras. It's not in the Vedas. Okay? Yes, you can absolutely claim that and feel completely right and have all kinds of people agree with you how right you are. But what does that result in? Are you more liberated and free now? No, you're more satisfied, because now your ego driver has the security, which is an illusion, of feeling right. You see what I mean? So this is one of the magical things that we do in Light Body, which is groups, tracking in groups, intuiting in groups. Why? Because we get to see our own inner condition so potently when we do that. Because say we're tracking an energy, one person feels like it's soft and fluid. Another person feels like it's dark and hard. Okay, you may think that those two data sets are conflicting, but they're not. It's that in this person's being, they're experiencing this energy like this. And in this person's being, they're experiencing the energy like this. When we can allow them both to be true, now that opens up our perceptions to more than what we were opened up to before. It takes a lot of humility, humbleness to engage like that. Because intuitives and empaths especially, we've had to defend our position. We've had to defend our ability, our existence as far as our perceptions of being truthful or not. We've had to defend ourselves for so long because of these families. There's a defensiveness in all that. But when we let that all melt away and we're in the truth of our being, we're not threatened by people who have different perspectives. If anything, we are more empowered by it. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on that point, because that is huge. These narratives that keep us confined and keep us in separation of each other are melting away. And as they do, we have more freedom to connect into these unseen realms and recognize, though they seem foreign because we've been cut off from them for so long, it's actually very natural for us to engage on these levels. It's very natural for us to, for example, use our voice to bring sacredness into a room, into a moment, into a connection. Use our presence to alchemize. You see what I mean? Alrighty, guys. So if you want to dive deeper into mastering these keys or this specific key, you can check out the Elemental Realm page on our website, lightbodyacademy.com. That elemental, you scroll down, the elemental portal right there, and you can get the information on working on how to sign up for that class this weekend. Or if you want to make it a deeper journey, as in you really want to commit and dive into unraveling the blind spots and liberating yourself exponentially, I encourage you guys to check out our Light Body Essentials and Dreamtime Healing Project. These are long-term subscription type educational and experiences, experiential learning. And that is also on our website, lightbodyacademy.com. And if you just want to dive deeper into these 4 keys, and maybe you want to just check out what this is about and where you land in the landscape within these 4 keys, this is in our blog, which is on the lightbodyacademy.com website. And the blog is called 4 Keys to Navigating the New Paradigm. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me for so long. I so appreciate you guys. I appreciate your support. You guys are really so treasured, so special. And the fact that, we're even here having a conversation like this shows just how far we have come in our awakening journey. So thank you again, guys. Let's see. I don't know when I'll be doing the next broadcast, but however you found out about it, just keep your eyes on that channel. You can also go onto our mailing list and get a prompting of when we do these lives. All righty. All right. Mwah. Love you guys. Until next time. Bye-bye.